Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Roberts, and as always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Roberts. And here on a magnificent Monday edition of the Yard, Bulldogs head to Nashville, take care of business. We're going to break all that down today. And that's the thing, too. We won big, and some of that's got to do with us. A lot of it's got to do with them. We didn't necessarily play clean at times. Though we did some good things, think we can play better. We'll have to play better down the stretch if we hope to be bowl eligible. But the Bulldogs pick up a big win, now 4-3 on the year. It's one of those things, too, it's almost more of a relief. But I think also, too, it's one of those deals, too, where, we talk about, I just want to get a win. Last year we just got a win against Vanderbilt. We're thinking, oh, my gosh, man, what's the deal? I don't feel that way today. Not unhappy about the ball game. Think we can play better. Think we did what good teams do to bad teams, and we blew them out. I still think this is a good Mississippi State team. I may be in the minority, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. I think the remaining schedule will bear me out there. From the beginning of the year, I feel like this is a 7-5 team. I don't know that I believe that right now. Maybe we're a 7-6 team. Maybe we go 6-6, win the bowl game. And we dropped that game to Memphis I was expecting to win. But we felt from the beginning of the year this was probably a solid bowl team. Maybe with the C-win at 8-4 on the floor at 6-6, the over and under right there at 7-5. All that's still in play, every bit of it. And so I like where we are as far as progressing since the Alabama game. We could have come out there and just kind of gone through the motions, and I don't know that Vanderbilt had enough offensively to really make us pay for it. But I thought we looked pretty focused. And Will Rogers, that was a discussion all week, is, how healthy is Will? I don't think he was 100%, but I still thought he played pretty well. He had a couple of balls I know we'd like to have back, and I think some of that has got to do with that little shoulder injury he has, but that's something we'll expect to get better day after day. Big game coming up this weekend with Kentucky coming in. Mississippi State opens as a 2-point favorite. I can't say I'm surprised. I think Kentucky is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And they're better than I thought they were, but at the same time, too, I think they can be had. We're going to break down Kentucky later in the week, but I think this is a winnable ball game. I like the fact that we're at home. I like the fact we went to Vanderbilt and took care of business. A lot has happened since we have been together, and I probably sound like it, too. Thursday, I had the book signing at Celebration Village there in Tupelo at the Furniture Market. Had a good day. Had a great day on Friday. Sold a ton of books on Friday. Left there, went to the Bancorp South Center, front row for Alice Cooper and Ace Frehley. And so here's the deal with Ace, man. Space Ace was my guy. When I was a kid, Kiss was coming out. And in many respects, Kiss was almost like cartoon characters to all of us. I mean, they were great. The band was great. I listened to Jam Kiss most of the way home from Nashville yesterday. But the reality of it is that was my first rock hero, was Ace Frehley. I saw him at Rocklahoma, had a chance to meet him briefly, sat front row, and that's the thing I think about too, man. It's like to sit there and watch one of your legends, one of your heroes, play Detroit Rock City and Strutter and Cold Gin and see all that up close and personal, man, that's a great experience. And I say this because I love all of you. And I'm speaking directly to the rock community in the state of Mississippi. See, here's the deal, man. And I told you guys, when I went to Three Doors Down and see their, set up front, I'm up there having the time of my life. So here's the deal, man. When these bands come to town, we got to go see them. One thing that I'll point out, too, is I had never seen Alice Cooper before. That sounds kind of crazy. And now after seeing the show, I think to myself, why have I denied myself the joy that is watching the Alice Cooper show? It's so theatrical. The Rock is great. Nita Strauss is great. Very, very talented woman. Very attractive woman as well. But Alice Cooper is a rock legend. And so to have a chance to get out and go watch the show, I don't know how long Alice is going to tour. I mean, Ace is 70 now. And so we talked about that. He said, hey, a couple facelifts here, some hair extensions there. I'm doing okay. But how long are these bands going to tour? And so when we have shows, we need to turn out, man. We really do. I mean, you owe it to yourself. Because how many bands you look back and say, oh, man, I never got to see them. I never got to see them before they quit touring. Or this guy's dead or that guy's dead. They're not going to tour anymore. And so I don't think you can take those opportunities for granted. We say, well, I'll go see him next time. Nah, man, nah, you can't do that, man. You can't do that. I mean, how much of our life do we spend just kind of working and paying bills? You know, right? I mean, honestly. Go let your hair down a little bit. Be a kid for a little while. I don't care what kind of brand of music you listen to. You owe it to yourself to go enjoy some live music and hear the greats play their legendary hits to perfection. That's what we saw Friday night. It's incredible. Came home, got up, drove to Nashville on Saturday. Of course, covered the ball game, spent the night up there, and went to the Titans game yesterday. Had a chance to see Jeff Simmons and Willie Gay and Nico Autry and Chris Jones, play. And it was not much of a ball game. Titans win. And it's interesting, too. I kind of did the math on this. It's the first ball game that I've attended in over 10 years that I didn't have to cover. It's pretty rare that I go to a ball game and not working, whether it be high school, college, or whatever. So that was kind of cool. Really, really cool. And I want to thank, the Ballard family, man. They're great. It's one of those things you get a message and say, hey, got an extra ticket for the Titans from Daniel Ballard. So I went. And it was great. I had a great time hanging with his family, enjoying the ball game, seeing our guys go out there and play, man. And it's interesting, too, when you don't have a vested interest in the game. You just kind of want to see a good game. You just enjoy the experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter who won that game yesterday, I was going to go home happy because Mississippi State won on Saturday. I'm true Maroon, man. I don't have other teams. I mean, I'm a Steelers fan. But if I was watching the Steelers play yesterday at Tennessee, I would have, it'd been a different deal. But even then, I don't love the Steelers as much as I love the Bulldogs. But a great weekend. The weekend of Steve is now concluded, so we're back to work. But, man, it's so great to see so many of you that came out and said hello at Tupelo at the Celebration Village. And of course, a lot of you guys in Nashville, so kind and gracious to come up and say hello and say how much you enjoyed the show. And then even yesterday at the Titans game, I'm leaving, walking back to the car, got a handful of people to come up and say hello. Hey, Steve, it's good to see you. It's good to see you guys, too. We're all on this thing together. Let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I will be in there one day this week. I need that BLT salad. I just, you know how it is when you're on the road sometimes. Maybe you eat a little bit too rough, right? You say, I only live once. I'm going to have a cheat day today. Then it becomes a cheat weekend, a cheap week. So I'm gonna jump in there and have that BLT salad with the grilled chicken. You can get it fried or grilled. I prefer the grilled, but I can't complain about the fried too. I eat the grilled just to kind of be a little more health conscious. But the reality of it is a meal in and of itself. A lot of times you go get a salad and you kind of leave wanting more. That's not the case at Bulldog Burger Company. They'll take care of you. And maybe you say, you know what, Steve, I'm going to Bulldog Burger Company. I'm getting a burger. We'll go right ahead. Because you can't go wrong there. Bulldog Burger Company, a great place to do business, a great place to break bread. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the brand new one. Lake Harbor Drive there in the Ridgeland Flowwood area. Go check them out today. You'll be glad you did. Have the spring rolls as the appetizer. They will make you and everybody around you better looking. And maybe get that chocolate shake to go. Great people, great prices, great atmosphere. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, let's look at this ball game. Of course, Vanderbilt wins the toss. They elect to defer. We've won a lot of tosses this year. But, I think I want the ball first. On the road at Vanderbilt, too, I want to go out there and set the tone. If it was different, if I was playing, maybe a team that I expected to lose to, maybe I'd want to put my defense on the field first and maybe get a shorter field. But here we go, and we talked about this on the show. Vanderbilt, not especially good at kickoffs, and they have not had any touchbacks on the year. And so as a result, we get a chance to bring the ball out. Kickoff has failed it. Tulu brings it out 21 yards. It looked like he was a block away from breaking it. The kid's got incredible vision. And so we set up shop there, 1st and 10 at our 21. They drop in the zone right out of the gate, and apparently there was a little bit of confusion, and rather than Will forcing the ball, he just runs for 2 yards, he gets out of bounds. We come back to Tulu for 7, and again, Tulu falls forward. He's one of the smaller guys on the field, but you can tell the guy's been in the weight room. Every time he falls forward. That's a guy I want to go to on 3rd down, right? Because I know a kid's going to fall forward. Brings up a 3rd and 1, and we run the ball off left side with Jaquavius Marks, and that's one of the things I talked about. I just did not think their linebackers were quick enough off the edge to be able to seal to the outside. They were not. We go back to Marks, and great perimeter blocking from the Bulldog wide receivers here. We throw it out to Marks. He gets it 21 yards down the field. Got a little banged up there, and DJ kind of took the bulk of the carries the rest of the ball game, but he'll be fine. We go back to Mekhi Polk for 11. Great comeback route here. Makes a couple of guys miss, gets 11 yards for the first down. We go back to Austin Williams. We're all the way up to the Vandy 36 at this point. 2nd and 2. We go to Wiley for 19. It's good to see him really beginning to get more involved because he is a real weapon for us. He was our best receiver last year. Now you've got a compliment out there, so he's not always drawing so much attention. We go back to Polk for 9. Great out route, great throw. Very difficult throw to make. You'll notice when you watch the replay, Will definitely kind of puts his foot in the ground, gets a little mustard on that one. It is a 7-0 ball game. The first offensive drive that we have put in the end zone the entire year on our opening drive. Now, of course, we returned the kickoff back against NC State, gave us a 7-0 lead, but that's the first offensive drive. And we've had 3 games this year where we turned the ball over on our very first possession, and guess what? We've lost all 3. All right, so we go down and then do a great job defensively here. Scott Goodman, great kick, puts the ball in the end zone. Mike Wright, a little fake toss sweep to the left, runs up the middle for a 4-yard gain. They did a little push pass thing to Rocco Griffin. We do a great job kind of stringing that out. Jalen Green puts his hat in there, makes a good tackle. They go back to Griffin, and this time we string it out in a major way. Ends up being a loss of 4 yards. And you know Griffin is their best running back, and that's not saying a whole lot. And again, I'm not throwing shade at the kid. But you knew they wanted to get him some touches early and get him involved in some unique situations. Martin Emerson having a great year for us, really is. It's one of the things I hear some people say, well, you're not hearing much from Emerson. Well, people don't test him. They don't throw his way. And that's the thing about a corner is there aren't a lot of great highlights for corners because when they do their job, the ball goes in the opposite direction. Harrison Smith in punts, Austin Williams with the fair catch to 27. Bulldogs put together another great drive here and overcame some self-inflicted wounds here. We're complete to Dylan Johnson for 6, which brings up a very manageable 2nd and 4. We give it to Marks, who runs for a 4-yard gain and a first down. Back to DJ for 1. And then we get a long running play here. Will Rogers, a little bit of a speed option look to the right side, fakes it, runs for 17 yards, and they bring it back. It was holding down the field, and it was really an unnecessary hold. We're going to get a good play there, but at the same time, too, I thought it said a little something about Will Rogers' health, the fact that we decided to run him there. We weren't really trying to protect him, and I think that really surprised Vanderbilt. We showed some of that in fall practice. Haven't utilized it a whole lot. We do there. Brings up a 2nd and 10. Wasn't a bag breaker, but negated a big play. We're complete to Polk for 12. Automatically convert route in their midfield now. Back to Tulu for 7. And then complete to Wiley for 14, which gets it down to the Vanderbilt 30 with the first down. Then we give up our first sack of the day. We knew Vanderbilt wasn't a great pass rushing team. Their front four really struggles to get any push. They kind of put an interesting concept here. Their left defensive end lines up over Lashley and then basically goes into a zone coverage, and they bring the backer inside. Scott just whips, and he comes straight through, and it's a 11-yard loss back to the Vanderbilt 41. 2nd and 21, you think, okay, we're sunk here. We're behind the chains, not going to make it happen. We find Jaden Wiley for 14 and then go back to Austin Williams for 14 over on the left side. Gives us a first down at Vanderbilt 13. And then we give up another sack. And this is one of those things, too. I charge this one to Will. I really do. I think Will's got to get rid of the football a little bit quicker. So a holding call and 2 sacks on the drive brings up a 2nd and 20. We're complete to DJ. Brings it up to the 18. And then we had an interesting play here. The first incompletion of the ball game for Will Rogers set a new program record opening the ball game, 13 for 13. The 14th pass attempt is incomplete to Malik Heath. But here's what we did on this, and we came back to this later in the ball game, is we overload the zone to the right with 3 receivers. And then we have Heath lined up to the left side. And what does he do? He drags across the formation after the traffic is cleared. I don't know that he gets the first down there, but I think, you know what, that is something we can utilize. A pretty basic concept, but at the same time, too, you're getting Malik Heath, who is your most physical receiver in space, and Will just throws it a little bit too far out in front of him. If he catches it, maybe we get a few yards there. Don't think we're going to convert, but at the same time, too, I like the play design, and I think that's something that you'll see a lot more of as we kind of move forward. Ruiz connects on the field goal, makes it a 10-0 ball game, and then Scott Goodman with a fair catch called. Didn't get this one in the end zone, but they do fair catch it, and it is another touchback. Bulldog defense back on the field, and so here we go. They run a little quarterback waggle and set this up with a post corner, and Devin Body kind of flips the hips of Jalen Green and then outruns Colin Duncan for the football. Makes a big gain there, 61 yards. And I know many of you were thinking just like me, here we go again, right? Here we go again. How are we giving up a big play to Vanderbilt? Well, the defense kind of steps in, bows their back a little bit, even though that, our backs are against the wall in the red zone there. Griffin runs for 1, comes back for 4, and then they're incomplete on 3rd and 5. Jaden Crumby providing some pressure to run out the quarter. We begin the second quarter with Joseph Bulovus with a field goal attempt from 27. And if I remember correctly, he is perfect inside 30. That's a former Mississippi State recruit that went to Alabama and eventually transferred. Now he's at Vanderbilt. Interesting how life works out for us. 10-3 ball game, and you felt like, you know what, it could have been a lot worse, because we could have let them cash in there. We don't. Defense played well in space there in the red zone and holds those guys to a field goal. So we come back, and again, this is our third drive, and you think, okay, let's go make something happen. We go to Marks for 9, then we're incomplete to Calvin. They had really, really, really committed themselves to removing that tunnel screen from our offensive play calling. We ran it a couple times, and it seemed like every time we did, there was traffic there. They were in the passing lanes. Last, we called for a false start. Not off to a great start for Scott. I'm not as down on him as some other people are, but he's got to get better. 3rd and 6, we're complete to Jaden Wiley for 8. And you think, okay, we got a first down. Let's make some things happen. Marks and runs for 7, brings up a 2nd and 3. What do we do here? Incomplete to Jameer Calvin, and there is a holding call on Cam Jones. And this was an absolute jailbreak. They brought some pressure. We didn't pick it up, and Cam just kind of grabs and holds to protect the quarterback. And then zone blitz concept again. They drop the left defensive end, 91, into the passing lane. He bats the ball up, and then Jalen Mahoney picks it off. And you just think, okay, at our 35, how do we let these guys hang around? This is already kind of opening up to be a nightmare-type scenario. On their very first play, and I don't understand what Mike Wright was looking at, I absolutely have no clue. And I know there was some pressure in his face. Jaden Crumby made a great hit on him, but it shouldn't have impacted the throw as much as it did. But Mike Wright just lays it up there. It was just a matter of who was going to pick it off and who does. It's always Emmanuel Forbes, right? Emmanuel Forbes picks it off, brings it out to the state 40. And at this point, you kind of felt like, you know what, that was a great, again, the defense, given the short end of the field, they make a play. And from that point forward, it really felt like the Bulldog defense took over this ball game. 1st and 10 at our 40, Will Rogers complete to DJ for 3. Then we're incomplete to Williams, incomplete to Jaden. That Austin Williams play was the double pass. And he's a former high school quarterback at D'Iberville. You got to make that connection because Austin Williams is wide open there. If you throw it out in front of him and let him run a little bit, he probably scores. But he has to work back to the football and ultimately traps it. It was the right call. The ball was incomplete. 4th and 7, we're getting ready to punt. And then what do you know? Alex Williams just takes off. And then not only is he offsides, he absolutely destroys Tucker Dave, made no attempt to get the football. It's a roughing the punter penalty. First and 10 then for the Bulldogs at the 42. We run for 13, and then there is a down-the-field holding call on Jameer Calvin, backs it up to the Vanderbilt 48. It makes it a 1st and 16. We're incomplete to Mekhi Polk. Nice little play there from them to break it up. We go back to Marks on a swing-out pass. And one of the things I've noticed, too, is on these check downs, we're giving the running backs a little more room to run. Early last year and the first part of this year, we just kind of check it out to them, and they're near the sidelines, so there's not a lot of room to operate. We're basically running this stuff as an angle route now. It's like they kind of float out there, and then we kind of dart them back inside on the angle. And so, we hit Marks, really nice run there, and then we go back to Malik Heath for 6. And really thought he could have powered through and got the first down there. He had the stiff arm on him, and just the momentum of the play takes him out of bounds, brings up a 4th and 1. We go for it as we should have. And Jaquavius Marks runs for 3 yards, brings up a 1st down, and then that they design a pretty good run blitz here and kind of get inside, kind of chase the interior Bulldog front there. Next thing you know, it's a 1-yard loss, brings up a 2nd and 11. No problem for Will Rogers, perhaps his best throw of the day. Lays it up, almost a little too much. But you know what almost counts for? Nothing in football. It only counts in horseshoes. Mekhi Polk, a great adjustment on the route to kind of slow his gait down and then secure the catch and drag the foot for a touchdown. It's 17-3 now, and it kind of felt like the ball game was over. You just think to yourself, there's no way Vanderbilt's going to be able to score 3 times to win this game. Vanderbilt gets the ball back at their 25 after another touchback. Rocco Griffin with a short gain. Then they call timeout. And then we sack Mike Wright. Randy Charlton credited with the sack there. Brings up a 3rd and 10. They compound the problems at Vanderbilt with a false start. And they basically said, Clark Lee got really upset, said that we were barking signals. Now, here's the thing about all that stuff. Now, from what I understand, and I've never officiated a football game, but what I'm told, that the umpire is the guy that really pays attention to that. I'm sure the center judge is involved as well, but the umpire has the benefit of being able to look right at the quarterback. So you can see him clap or hear what he's saying. And so Vanderbilt's complaining that State, and that specifically Nathan Pickering, was barking signals. Officials had no part of that. Mike Wright then flushed on 3rd and 15, gets toward the sidelines, and then Tyrus Wheat hits him inbounds, knocks him out of bounds, and then they lose their minds. And this argument between Clark Lee and Ken Williamson went on, and to Ken Williamson's credit, I thought he handled it pretty well. And I'm sure Clark Lee was arguing for the rest of the game and not just that specific call, because Clark Lee's been around a few 24 hours. He understands when a guy is hit before the white, that is still a legal tackle. Tyrus Wheat made a big hit on the sidelines. It looked worse, I'm sure, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, and there weren't many of them there. There's also holding on the play. We decline the penalty, and then we take the punt. Really, really bad punt, 30 yards out at midfield. We take over here and basically put the ball game away. We're complete to Tulu for a yard. We go back to J.J. Jernigan for 4, brings up a 3rd and 5. We find DJ for 6, and DJ's another guy, too, that runs with a forward lean. He is a guy that I want to have the football when we're short of the sticks. He'll find a way to get the first down. Will Rogers then runs for 1 and slides down. We're complete to Austin Williams for 8, which brings up a 3rd and 1 at their 30. We find Tulu for 7. Great job just to kind of settle in coverage there, make a great catch. Incomplete to Tulu, and then we find Jaden Wiley on the corner route, which gives us 1st and goal at the Vanderbilt 6. And it seemed like we were pretty much determined that we were going to find Rufus Harvey here. We're incomplete to Rufus on the fade. Looked like he got held at the line of scrimmage. Probably okay with not getting a call there. And then we're incomplete again. And then finally go back to Rufus. And a great job by both players, both Rufus and Will Rogers on this play. Will rolls right, slips some pressure, and rather than allowing his momentum to carry him to the right there, he sets his feet as Rufus uncovers both Vanderbilt defensive backs that were pretty much in that zone, all flow to the right, and Rufus checks back to the left, and it's an easy touchdown. It's 24-3 at this point, And I know our Starkville Yellow Jacket fans are absolutely losing their minds at this point because their boy Rufus with his first Bulldog touchdown. Not his first Bulldog catch, but his first Bulldog touchdown. All right, so we kick off again, and it's another touchback. And so Mike Wright sets up at the Vanderbilt 25, complete to Chris Pierce for 11, one of their best gains of the day, minus the 61-yarder. All right, so they go back to Cam Johnson for 4, complete to Patrick Smith, brings up another third down. Mike Wright then runs for a 1-yard gain, runs out of bounds, Tyrus Wheat there, and again you go back to the previous drive, probably knowing the intentions with which the Tyrus Wheat will hit you with. Probably made him pull up a little bit. 4th and 4, there's a false start on them, backs it up again. Harrison Smith then a punt that Austin Williams catches at our 15. We take over with 46 yards. We get a 9-yard gain, which brings up a 2nd and 1. We call timeout, and probably maybe regretted that later because of how the drive turned out. We're incomplete at Jaquavius Marks, and then on 3rd and 1, this was awful. This was an awful non-call by the officials. So Will tries to find Jaquavius Marks for the first down over on the left side, and they run through Marks. They hit him well before the football gets there. We don't get a call, and ultimately, have to punt. But the reality of it is there was PI on the play. They didn't call it. We punt the ball back. Tucker Day with a 56-yard punt, his best of the day. It's returned 24 yards to Vanderbilt 44. They take over with 11 seconds, and then Aaron Odom comes off, man, really gets off there, beats the left tackle, takes the left tackle to the quarterback, and just engulfs Wright to close out the half. And so I would say a good first half for Mississippi State. Not a great one. Not a great one. We had some things we could have done better in that ball game, and I thought there were some, there was a couple passes here and there that Will missed on. And, of course, there were some other things around him. It wasn't just a Will Rogers issue. But you look up and it's like, we hadn't played clean, but, man, we're up 3 touchdowns at the break. It's 24-3. Many of us picked this ball game like a 31-10. A lot of people said, if we can get in the 30s, which I doubt we can, we'll feel good about the ball game. But the reality of it is 24-3. We're doing what a good team should do to a bad team, and that's blow them out. All right, let's jump into the second half here. Good half for the Bulldogs. We, of course, we had to kick because Vandy deferred. They elected to take the ball, and, of course, Scott Goodman comes through with another touchback. That's quite the weapon. I mean, it really is. I mean, it gets lost sometimes in translation, but the fact that people don't get an opportunity to return it very often against us is really good. Vanderbilt, of course, starts their 25. Mike Wright. They're determined at this point that they're going to run the football. And so they started a little option-style offense, put some wrinkles in there where they're going to kind of get Wright going. He rushes for 5 on back-to-back plays because Vandy at 1st and 10, if they're 35. They're complete to Brezhnev, who is a good tight end for them, and he has 8 yards. I really thought they got the first down. Like, I was very curious about when I looked up and saw it 2nd and 2. I said, what? How is it 2nd and 2? Okay, whatever. They're complete to Devin Body. Martin Emerson absolutely blows it up, brings up a 3rd and 2. They decide to run, and then Aaron Brule knives through, makes a great physical tackle. And so then they have to punt. Great punt by Harrison Smith, 50 yards to the State 7. And then this is a little bit of silliness here, I guess. I don't necessarily fault Will Rogers here. I thought we could have been a little bit smarter. I know you want to play a little bit conservative when you're backed up, but I didn't think our play calling was exceptional here. But we run for 2 and brings up a 2nd 8. We're incomplete to Wiley. Thought we forced it just a little bit there. Davion Davis breaks it up. And then we basically throw a ball up for grabs, and Tulu just couldn't get there. And I don't know if it's just because, it's a great job by the cornerback to kind of force him outside. I don't know if we're just trying to run a post there and try to get him, but basically serves as a punt. But, we take a chance right there, and I guess maybe at the end of the day, maybe it works out the same way. But that's an interception that would have been the 3rd of the day had the review stood up in the first half there. But of all the ones that we threw, it's like the one that's batted at the line, you look at it and say, well, I don't know if I can really charge it to the quarterback. This one you can. Of course, there's some things that happen. I don't know that if I'm going to be throwing the football out to Tulu in double coverage on a post unless he is just kind of running free. So thought maybe our read there maybe wasn't a very good one, especially on 3rd and 8. Why not just find Austin Williams there, right? That seems to be what he's best at, is moving the chains. Okay, so Vanderbilt takes over at our 48 in plus territory again for the second time. And then Mike Wright, incomplete to Chris Pierce, then incomplete again to Brezhnev, Crumity in his face there, and then complete to Chris Pierce for 24 yards. I think that's their second biggest gain of the day. Rocco Griffin then runs for nothing. Mike Wright runs for 1 and brings up a 3rd and 9. Incomplete, and then Pickering all in his grill there. They make the field goal on the 4th and 9 to bring the score 24-6. So again, both opportunities for them to put points on the board came due to Mississippi State miscues. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right, 8:29 to go in the third quarter. We take over after the Tulu Griffin breaks 1 for 35. Again, almost could have broke this one too. 63-yard kick. Griffin takes it to 2, brings it out to the state 37. So what do you know? We already got pretty good field position with the first down. We're already fighting for plus territory. DJ runs for no gain. Then we find a Christian Ford who has kind of become a sneaky weapon for the Bulldogs. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're not even game planning for that kid, and every time you look up, he's moving the sticks. 1st and 10, we get sacked for a loss of 4 yards. And this is one where they just brought pressure. They brought the nickel out of the slot. And then I don't know if we just didn't adjust to protection, if we just didn't see it or whatever, but pretty good concept there. They get us for the loss. 2nd and 14, we find Jameer Calvin for 3, brings up a 3rd and 11. And what do you know? It's Christian Ford again. 20 yards down to the Vandy 20, brings up a first down in the red zone. Complete to Makai Polk for nothing. And then back to Malik Heath for 11, which sets up a 1st and goal at the 9. We're trying to find Polk here and back-to-back plays, and just quite the fade routes in the red zone have rarely worked for us. Corner routes have worked well, out routes have worked well, slants have worked well. The fade, just not so much. It's just not working for us. 3rd and 9, we find Malik Heath. Similar concept to what we talked about before. You flood the right side, drag him across backside formation, give him a chance to run after the catch. He does. Touchdown for the Bulldogs there. Makes it a 31-6 ball game, and at this point it was just a matter of what the final score was going to be. Vanderbilt gets the ball again. This time they get a chance to return it. Goodman's kick 61 to the Vandy 4 rather than fair catch it. Rocco Griffin tries to bring it out, and Janari Dean with a nice tackle in the open field there. Vanderbilt 1st and 10 at their 22. They run it to Patrick Smith for 2. Jevin Banks, a guy that I think is going to be a good player for us in years to come, with a tackle there. Mike Wright then complete to Will Shepard for 4. Will Shepard, the best receiver in the Vandy offense, that was his only touch of the day. That was it. Completely took him out of their game plan. That's what good corners do. Martin Emerson, Emmanuel Forbes, didn't matter who was on him. They just simply didn't have a way to get him the football. And then a big sack, Tyrus Wheat there on the 3rd and 4, brings up to 4th and 13. And they punt it, and then we get called for a personal foul. Didn't get to see the replay in the booth, but at the end of the day, with the score the way that it was, you know, there's no need for that kind of stuff. But there is a personal foul on Kyle Cass, 15 yards from the 44 back to the 29. This special team silliness stuff. I mean, that's got to go. Matt Brock will get that fixed. But Kyle Cass, a guy that we signed basically to be a depth guy at safety, and he is contributing on special teams. And so, if that's your only role, you can't go out there and do something to the detriment of the team. All right, State takes over at our own 29 with 1:30 to go in the third quarter. DJ runs for 8, then runs for 8 again and a first down. 1st and 10 out to the State 45. We're complete to Rufus, who's having his coming out party. 11 yards to the Vanderbilt 44. Then we're complete to Ra, a guy we hadn't seen much. He was a guy early on. Some people said, you know what, don't be surprised if he's the starting next receiver at the end of the year. He's kind of disappeared. But all of a sudden, we decided to start feeding him in this ball game. And that's good to see. I want to see these young receivers have some opportunities to make plays because we're going to use a bunch of them. Okay, so 2nd and 9 at the Vanderbilt 43. DJ runs for 3. Then we're back to Ra, 3rd and 6. We run it to DJ again for 7, and on 2nd and 3, what do? We're back to Rah-Rah for 9. Go back to him on 1st and 10 for 5 more yards. And so it's like we have run 4 of the last 6 plays to Rah-Rah Thomas. So it's good to see him getting involved again. We try to get one over to Rufus on 2nd and 5 at the 10, and it's broken up. And then next thing you know, we're incomplete to Rufus again. I guess we're trying to get him on a touchdown, and there's a roughing the passer call. They showed the replay in the booth. Absolutely was roughing the passer. 1st and 5, we give it to Jaquavius Marks, who burst through for the touchdown. The kick is then good, and then Goodman's kickoff returned 17 yards to Vanderbilt 25, 38-6. And now you're thinking, okay, when do we start emptying the bench? Vanderbilt takes over at their 25. Rocco runs for 2 and then runs for 15, but it comes back on a hold. Vanderbilt just simply could not run the football. 9 yards rushing in the final. It's crazy to think about that. All right, 2nd and 15, Mike Wright complete to Patrick Smith for 7 to the Vandy 27. Corey Ellington, a guy that Zach Arnett said was a young guy that we might see a little bit more. We saw. He actually made some plays. He was a guy, too, there were some people, when we took him, people said, I don't know about that kid. I've always liked him. He just needs a year or 2 in the weight room. Guy can really play. He's a great athlete. And there's always a message board expert. Oh, well, I heard from this coach. No, you didn't hear anything. When I hear that kind of stuff, what I hear is, well, here's what I think, and I don't have enough confidence in my own opinions. Let me just kind of attribute this to somebody else to give it a little more credibility. John Lewis also makes the stop there. Okay, so on 3rd and 8, we're complete to Cam Johnson for 3 yards. DeCambrion Richardson with a nice play there forces the punt, and we fair catch it there at the 27. So you're beginning to empty the bench a little bit and getting some playing time for some younger guys. They're making plays. And you just go back and look on the tackles for this one. Asias Furge, Corey Ellington, John Lewis to Cambrion Richardson. That should all be good news to Bulldog ears. 1st and 10 in our 27. We're complete to Christian Ford for 6. We go back to Ford for 4 and the first down. Completed to Jaquavius Marks for 9. Now we're out to the 46. False start on Lashley backs us up 5 yards. And again, Scott did not have a great day. Missed one, had a couple of false starts, Incomplete to Calvin on 2nd and 6. Brings up the 3rd and 6. And what do? Will Rogers steps up and he's going to run, and then Caleb Ducking flashes in his face, and he hits him. Now, of course, we're across the line of scrimmage. But what Caleb Ducking did in the open field was remarkable. He explodes 59 yards, runs through traffic, fights through a couple tackles, and gets into the end zone. Now, here's the thing I'll say, too. Sometimes you see a big running play nullified by a hold. So there was no penalty down the field. There was nothing that assisted Caleb Ducking in his pursuit of the goal line. That's just his natural ability. So like to see more of that. Good to see, again, these young receivers. Robbie Falk had a really good column about that in postgame on Saturday. It's about how some newer names were able to play because there was some separation in the ballgame. So we end up having a punt. Tucker Day punts 47 yards, and Tucker had a pretty good day to the 15. Vanderbilt takes over with 6:45, and then they have put the backup quarterback in. Mike Wright got a little bit banged up, I guess, and there's just no need to prolong that and risk further injury. Jeremy Mosa complete. And I thought Jeremy had a big arm, too. He threw the ball with some conviction. Complete for 7 yards to the Vanderbilt 22. To complete for 6, and then back on first down. Complete for 2 more. Incomplete. Brings up 4th and 8. 50-yard punt from Harrison Smith. Mississippi State takes over with 4:32 to go, and Chance Levertich makes his Mississippi State debut. Kind of forced this one a little bit to Rah-Rah. It gets broken up there. But outside of that, I thought everything Levertich did on this drive was outstanding. We're complete to Christian Ford for 9. We give it to DJ for 6. Picks up a first down on 3rd and 1. 1st and 10. We're complete to Caleb Ducking for 9. He fights through it, brings up a 2nd and 1. Then we're flagged for false start. Cole Smith backs us up a little bit there. 2nd and 6. Levertich tucks it, runs for 7 to pick up the first down. We go back to Caleb Ducking for 13, and then back to him again for 18. It's like you think to yourself, where's this guy been hiding? False start on Grant Jackson. Guy kind of getting to see his first action there. Of course, this is the second team offensive line in there. And then what do? We find Ra for 28. Beautiful throw, beautiful catch. Touchdown. Makes it 45-6. I read some of the social media commentary, too. People said, hey, Mike Leach is throwing the football up 38-6, man, late in that ball game. Guys, what are we supposed to do other than run our offense? You mean to tell me these guys are out here like Caleb Ducking, guys like Ra Thomas, they're just not supposed to play? Chance Levertich, a guy that grew up in Mississippi State guy, finally gets a chance to go in there and play a drive. He's just supposed to kneel down? Nah, come on, man. It's not what we're going to do. You got to see what these guys do when the bullets are flying, right? What happens if we have to put a guy in a game? They got to get some real game experience. I don't care. Doesn't really bother me. It used to bother me years ago when I didn't understand football as much, I guess. I don't care. You got the backups in there. You need to find a way to stop them. Well, he didn't. And so, to make a long story short, the game is over. Vanderbilt gets the ball back at their 27. And then, Jeremy Moses incomplete. And then the last play of the game, they take a shot down the field. Ball goes out of bounds, and the game's over. 45-6. State wins. It's a huge blowout without playing our best game. Now, they had something to do with it too, but let's don't sit here and diminish the opportunity. We went out there and played pretty well. Didn't play great, played pretty well. And then won going away. Will Rogers, 41 of 57, 384 yards, 4 touchdowns, a couple picks. And again, I don't really fault him too much for the first one. The second one I do, even though it basically worked as a punt. 3 sacks on the day. I charge Will with one of those and the offensive line with the other 2. Now, the one that comes off the slot there, when they basically, I guess it was a nickel, they brought him free. Will's got to see that change of protections, or, Lafley's got to see that. Somebody missed a communication there, so you could say some of that's on him too. Will has a tendency to hold the ball at times. Done better in recent weeks, but again, people are going to see this with Lashley, and they're going to see what happened against Alabama. They're going to bring pressure from that side. Now, the flip side of that, too, is, Vandy tried to mimic some of the pressures that Bama brought. They just didn't have the same personnel. We're going to see some teams that have some comparable personnel, maybe not quite the same level of Alabama. So we're going to see a lot more rush than we are going to see drop. There are people now that are going to try to do what Alabama did, because if you do what A&M did, it'll get you beat. Dylan Johnson, 7 carries, 34 yards, no losses. Jaquavius Marks, 8 carries, 33 yards, just a 1-yard loss, also a touchdown. Chance Levertich, 1 carry for 7 yards. Will Rogers, actually 6 carries for 12, and of course his big gain was nullified due to a holding penalty. Leading receiver on the day was Jaden Wally, 5 grabs for 72 yards. Mekhi Polk had a couple touchdowns, as Ra Thomas and Malik Heath and Rufus Harvey. So 5 throwing touchdowns on the day to 4 different receivers. Long play of the day was the touchdown pass to Mekhi Polk to really begin to kind of get some separation in the ball game. And with Vanderbilt not running many plays, guys, it's bad. It's bad. So they ran 17 times. They threw it 25 times. We're talking 42 plays here. 42 plays in an SEC football game. And so you're not going to fill up the stat sheet if you're Mississippi State, with tackles. Nate Watson, 5 tackles, your leading tackler. Tyrus Wheat with 4. And Tyrus is always around the football. Isaiah Spurge in relief in limited action actually had 4 tackles as well. Martin Emerson with 3. The big interception, of course. Emmanuel Forbes there for a 22-yard return. Tucker Day had 2 punts on the day, averaged 51.5 yards per punt. That dog will hunt, had 1 of 50+, and, of course, 1 inside the 20.
Do you find that you've got less time to do the things you really want to do? Maybe you don't have time to run to the store and put together a great gourmet meal for the family. Well, our friends at HelloFresh are here to help you. Fall is very, very busy. The kids are back in school. There's lots of activities, not to mention sometimes you just don't feel like going and dealing with the hustle and bustle of the supermarket. Allow our friends at HelloFresh to take care of you. HelloFresh's family-friendly menu is a big win for back-to-school season with easy, delicious recipes for drama-free dinners. We all want more of that. They offer 50 menu and market items to choose from every single week. From vegetarian meals and calorie-smart choices to extra-special gourmet options, there's something for everybody in the family. Recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. All right, so here's the deal. I have tried all of these home delivery kits, and I'll be honest with you, HelloFresh is exactly what they mean. The name is not just some catchy marketing campaign. It is HelloFresh, delivered right to your door. Because I believe in its product, I've partnered with these folks, and I'll be honest with you, we're going to share a promo code for you to help you get involved, let's just say. Go to HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14. What's a Boneyard for? Boneyard is for you. The 14 is for free meals. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/Boneyard and the number 14. Boneyard 14. For up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. You can't do better than that. Again, HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14. LaDietrich Griffith had a chance, 3 returns, 76, along of 35. So, all around good ball game for us. Again, and there's still some teachable moments here. You look at this stuff too with Vanderbilt. 12 of 17 from Mike Wright for 122 yards. They have 146 yards passing, and then they run for 9 yards. And so it's 155 yards, and of course 61 of it comes on one play, right? So they had 2 plays that went for more than 10 yards on the day. That's it. The 61-yarder and then the 24-yarder, the reception to Chris Pierce. They just – and it's like we knew they were a bad team, and we made them look even worse. And let's not forget this too. Like I read people like, oh, yeah, it's just Vanderbilt. And guys, it is. Vanderbilt beat Colorado State. They beat UConn. It's a bad UConn team. They nearly go on the road and beat South Carolina, and that's not a great South Carolina team either. But the reality of it is – this is a team that they've played well at times, at least competitively. And so then you go in there and smash them. And just when you think that, okay, maybe Vandy's figuring some things out, we go in there and beat them up like we should. So there you go. That's a ball game. Time now for the top 10 list. Close of Blair. Pretty excited about this one. Blair Chandler, longtime friend of mine, big fan of Blair's. Guy's been around a few 24 hours, to say the least. Guy's been in the mortgage business for 21 years. Top 1% close ratio nationally. This guy gets loans approved. If you're looking to refi, maybe the quarantine was really difficult on you financially. Maybe you weren't able to work for a while. Maybe your business suffered and you had to kind of dip into some personal savings. You're looking to maybe recoup some of that. Get your equity working for you. How about that? You got the big house, you got some money in it. Maybe you want to get out of prime mortgage insurance. That's just basically throwing money away. It's a nice little scam they have in the mortgage industry to kind of steal more money from you. But the reality of it is you're making an investment in your future. Maybe you can get out of PMI, lower your payments. Maybe you want to get your equity working for you and consolidate some debt, lower your monthly debt-to-income ratio. Visit Blair at closewithblair.com. That's BLAIR, closewithblair.com. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, and this is only available through you guys, right? It's only for you. And if you've got friends, I'm sure Blair would be happy to let you share the code there. But tell him you heard about this on the Boneyard, and he's going to pay for your appraisal. The demand for appraisals has skyrocketed, $500 to $600 value now. There's a lot of fees involved with buying a house. And Blair can help you with some of that just because of the fact that he loves you. We're all family here. We're all family. I'm going to give you guys Blair's phone number, and this is his personal cell number. This is not just, a number to some office where you're going to sit behind a voicemail for 3 days and then hopefully get a call back. You can text Blair today. You can call Blair. He's a busy guy, but he'll get right back with you. His phone number is 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. And again, be sure to tell him you heard about it on the Boneyard to get your appraisal for free. How about that? Free. If it's free, it's me. All right, so I went back and looked on Twitter to see who sent me the suggestion, but there have probably been about a dozen of you that say, Steve, we haven't done Rob Zombie.
So we're going to rectify that today. We're going to look at the Rob Zombie catalog. Now, here's the thing about Rob Zombie and White Zombie. So there are a lot of songs that don't make the radio that are killer. There are. And so your top 10 may be different from mine. Of course, yours would be wrong. But the reality of it is there are some very passionate fans about Rob Zombie. Of course, he's into making horror movies and things of that nature. Rob is a guy that's a very, very talented artist. In addition to being a tremendous musician, he's a great producer. He's got a spoon in every pot. Very, very talented. A bit of a renaissance man, shall we say. So these are my top 10 Rob Zombie songs. Of course, some solo, some with White Zombie. And to be honest with you, at times I kind of prefer the White Zombie stuff. I don't know why it is, but I just kind of prefer the White Zombie stuff. So here we go. Number 10, this was one that for a long time it had to kind of grow on me because it kind of drags a little bit, but it's Living Dead Girl. Number 10, Living Dead Girl. Number 9, probably one of the more unique songs in the catalog. It's I Am Legend. A little bit different for them. Starts out a little more melodic. It's just a different track. And so that's a deeper track that might not make your list that made mine. Number 9, I Am Legend. Number 8, if you ever listen to Howard Stern, this was a song that was gifted to Howard. It's The Great American Nightmare that Rob Zombie put together. Every time I hear the song, I think the Howard Stern show is coming on. I used to listen to Howard every day. When I traveled every day, when I was in regional manager in the lending business, I had to get out and go travel. And so as a result, Howard and I got to be well acquainted. All right, number 7. This is a two-parter, but it's Electric Head Parts 1 and 2. And it is basically a symphony of sound. And I love the fact that that Rob kind of works in some movie dialogue into the show, that kind of stuff. It's very, very different. So Electric Head Parts 1 and 2. So we actually get, I guess, 11 songs today. Number 6, one of the great driving songs of our generation, man, Supercharger Heaven. That's the thing, too. Rob Zombie is a rock guy. You look at that guy and you fully understand that. But the reality of it is he writes a lot of up-tempo, hard-charging stuff. Got it's really in the cars, but also, too, that's the thing about the Rob Zombie stuff. If you're listening to it, you better set the cruise because you're going to get this reaction. Your foot's going to hit the pedal. Number 5, the second song, I guess the second big single for them was Black Sunshine. And I love the bass line on this one. I do. It's a little bit different, but I love it. I love how the bass is really kind of accentuated in the song. Number 4, Super Beast. A killer track. And kind of like Supercharger Heaven, you better be careful when you're driving. Not to be consumed when operating heavy machinery by any stretch. Super Beast, an absolute banger of a track. Number 3, I would say, in many respects, probably his best solo song. And it went everywhere. The video is great. It's Dragula. Number 3, Dragula. Number 2, off the Astro Creep 2000 album. This was the first album I think that I bought right after my oldest son was born, or right before, because we came home to the hospital listening to this. And I love the industrial sound of this. I love how White Zombie and Rob Zombie began to kind of evolve as artists and bring in more of the industrial sound, but it's more human than human. And love the guitar on this one as well. This is another one, too, that I don't know how you listen to at low volumes. I mean, it just seems like it would just be a reaction. Like as soon as those opening beats start, you kind of reach for the volume button. But number 1, and I don't know that there could ever be, and it's the one that kind of introduced White Zombie and Rob Zombie to America in many respects, even though they had some other earlier albums. But it's Thunder Kiss 65, man. That is one of those songs. It's like you know exactly who you're listening to, and the guitar tone is just a little different. And that when Rob Zombie and White Zombie kind of hit the radio, it was a little bit different than everything else. Very, very unique. I think this is the signature song for White Zombie. It's Thunder Kiss 65. We've had that one on a couple of lists over the years. But that's the one, like, when people say, hey, do you like White Zombie? That's the song that immediately comes to mind for me. And I think it does for many of you as well. So there you go. That's your top 10 Rob Zombie songs. And I apologize. There was somebody hit me up on Friday. And I told Roy, hey, we're going to do Rob Zombie on Monday. Should have already done it. So there you go. And Rob's a little different dude now. Don't get me wrong. He's a little bit different. And I think the beauty in all of that is what makes him so unique. You know, he is a guy that, again, that is involved in so many different things, an ultra-talented guy. So there you go, top 10 Rob Zombie songs. You have an idea for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. If you're looking for the list, you can follow Roy on Twitter and or Spotify at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67, and you can find those lists. Many of you have searched those lists and say, hey, Steve, I thought you did this one, and then you didn't. And Gordon Griffin, my buddy, had done a few before Roy began doing them, so sometimes we got to find those. Eventually, we'll get everything kind of moved into one place, but it's been a busy few days, to say the least. All right, so there you go. Next segment of the show brought to you by CampusBookmart.net. I was there I was with them Thursday, Friday. I will be back at Campus Bookmart this Saturday. So if you're coming to town for the Kentucky ball game, and you need some books, you need them signed, you need to see my beautiful face, you can find me at Campus Bookmart. I'll be right there on the premises. I think that's going to be 11 to 3 on this Saturday. So if you're in town, when you're coming to campus, you're doing your shopping, you come by and you see me. Happy to see you. And you can see Stand Man, the lovely, talented Susie, Miss Pam Milliard, Kathy Brown, Candy, everybody up there will treat you great because they see you as family just like I do. You know, it's like you come in wearing the maroon stuff, and it's like you're not a stranger. You're just a friend we hadn't met yet, right? And so if you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, you can visit them on the World Wide Web, on Al Gore's internet, at campusbookmart.net. And while you're there, let me give you a promo code. I mean, that's the thing. You listen to the show, we give you a little thing, save you a little money, right? Because you're going to be buying Mississippi State merch anyway. Use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. And then you order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net. All right, let's look at the weekend that was in SEC football. Arkansas, 45-3 winners over Arkansas Pine Bluff. You know, I don't think anybody kind of tuned in today expecting to hear about that ball game. You know, it's just one of those things, right? You know, and they jump on them in the first quarter. It's like 17-0, and you're like, okay, how long do we, leave the starters in? At the half, it's 45-0. Crazy. The only scoring in the second half was a field goal late by Pine Bluff to prevent the shutout. That's it, 45-3. KJ Jefferson, 10 of 17 for 194 yards, 4 touchdowns. And you basically just kind of out-athlete them here. Pretty good running day, but they spread the carries around. I mean, even Burks, who I think might be the best receiver in the Southeastern Conference, ran 2 times for 56 yards, had a long of 49 on the end around, also 89 yards receiving for him. So there you go. Arkansas off the 3-game schneid there with their win, 45-3. LSU and Ole Miss. Now, I've picked against Ole Miss 3 weeks in a row. They've made me look silly. They've won. Ole Miss in a pretty good spot right now, but they're still, again, basically effectively 2 games out of first in the West. You can say, but Steve, they're a game back. Guys, Alabama holds a tiebreaker over Ole Miss because they beat them head-to-head. So Ole Miss, in order to win the West, Ole Miss is going to have to either hope that Alabama loses twice or that there is a 3-way tie with which Ole Miss can find a way to win the tiebreaker. Alabama's on a mission right now. I mean, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I don't see them losing at this point. So those of you that are kind of holding out hope that Ole Miss doesn't win the West, I think you're going to be okay, but I know you're also hopeful that Ole Miss will lose a ball game just so you can relax and enjoy the rest of college football season, right? But listen, give Ole Miss some credit. Defensively, they've played better, and they told us, hey, we're going to be better than we thought. And, of course, beginning of the year, things get a little silly, and, they shut reporters out of there. But, listen, they're playing better football. I mean, and it's okay for us to admit that. As much as we may hate it, Ole Miss is a good football team. LSU comes down and they get ahead 7-0, and then after a quarter, Ole Miss hadn't done a whole lot offensively. LSU put that 90-yard drive together and got up early and you think, okay, here we go, here we go, and then all of a sudden it's like things just fall apart. Ole Miss kicks a field goal, and then Ole Miss drives, puts together a couple drives. They had the big turnover LSU did. So it's like you're up 7-0, and you look up at halftime, and it's 17-7. And then Ole Miss just basically ends the ball game in the third quarter. Henry Parrish, a 5-yard run. Jerry Ely goes 36. It's 31-7 at the end of three quarters. And there's some Ole Miss people who are saying, you know what, this is the last time we ever have to see Ed Orgeron. And he has given them some trouble since he's left. But it was kind of like the last kiss goodnight. And, of course, they add a couple plays later, a field goal and a touchdown late to make the score look a little more respectable. But let's be honest, guys. In the middle quarters, Ole Miss was clearly the better team. Hadn't had a chance to go back and watch the ball game in its entirety yet. But Ole Miss really removed all chances for LSU in this ball game. And, of course, the big pick early on Max Johnson hurt. But the reality of it is, Ole Miss just too much offensively. Matt Corral, 18 of 23 for 185 yards and the touchdown. They even had Dontario Drummond dial up a little trick play there. Snoop Connor, who I really think is kind of the unsung hero of this team. Jerry and Ely has been a little bit banged up at times. Snoop Connor is a guy that a lot of people maybe undervalued as a recruit. Ran for 117 yards. This is their between the tackles guy. And that's the thing, when they can spread you out a little bit, when you have to respect Matt Corral's running ability, it opens up some running lanes inside. Snoop Connor taking full advantage. So good win for them. And, again, Ole Miss 6-1. 6-1, guys, with 5 to play. It's the world we're living in right now. Okay, so this Tennessee game was awfully interesting for a while, but in the end, talent generally wins. We've talked about that before. That's kind of the reality of life. You can have the best plan in the world. You can be motivated. You can have that great pregame speech. You can get everybody's feelings rolling. And I guess the reality, sometimes I forget that A&M beat Alabama, so there's really a tie. But Alabama holds a tiebreaker. So Ole Miss just needs to win out and hope Alabama loses the ball game. And maybe, I guess, that A&M Ole Miss game is big too. So I apologize. I don't spend a lot of time praising the Rebels, so forgive me if I make some mistakes. But, of course, Tennessee jumps out to a 14-7 lead. Alabama's, it's like 7-0. They're just kind of rolling along there. And you're like, okay, it's going to be the same old. Well, it wasn't. Tennessee fights back. Javonte Payton with a big play, who's having a big season up there for those guys. It's 14-7 after a quarter. And people are like, well, wait a minute now. What's happening here? And, guys, from there, it was really the Alabama game. And, of course, Tennessee kind of hung in there a little bit until Alabama's depth kind of got to them. It's a 21-14 game at the break. Bama adds a third quarter field goal to go up a score, makes it 24-17. But in the fourth quarter, it was really all Alabama. Final score, 52-24. Tennessee adds a touchdown to pull within 7 on a big play to Cedric Tillman. To kind of stay in there for a while, but after that it was over. No longer interesting. Bryce Young, 31 of 43 for 371 yards, a couple touchdowns. If I had a Heisman vote today, that's who I'm giving it to. I do think Matt Corral goes to New York. I do think Matt Corral will be a finalist. But I think right now Bryce Young having the better year. And and they're winning some big ball games. And even in the game against A&M, I didn't think he was bad. So we'll see. And then B-Rob goes again over 100 yards again. That's the thing about Brian Robinson. Just another guy at Alabama. Just another guy that's kind of putting some things together. Going to be a pro. It's amazing the level of which that they can recruit. It really is. You can recruit, and then guys will stay. It's pretty crazy to think about. Okay, so Texas A&M has not lost since they lost to Mississippi State. And of course, they lose to Arkansas, lose to Mississippi State. They figure some things out, beat Alabama, beat Missouri, now have beat South Carolina. And you say, well, you know what? They should beat Missouri and South Carolina, and you're right. But there has been no hangover, and I think offensively they have found some real rhythm. They jump right on these guys, 14-0, and Anaya Smith with a big punt return to open the scoring, and then Calzada does a touchdown pass to Watermeyer to make it 14-0. Then it's 31-0 at the break. 31-0. The game is over. Into three quarters, it's 41-0. And then South Carolina scores a couple of garbage touchdowns against the Bandits, including one with 12 seconds left to make it 44-14. Calzada, though, still kind of pedestrian, 50%. But let's be honest, they're kind of running to set up the pass a little bit. And I guess in some respects they're running that play action stuff just to kind of keep the defense honest. But Achane runs 20 times for 154 yards, and then Spiller 18 for 102. So you got 200-yard rushers in this game, and they're completely different backs. Completely different backs. Going to be interesting to see what these guys do down the stretch. A&M 6-2. You know, obviously you could see them winning out. I mean, could you not? I mean, you start looking at this schedule and you start thinking, okay, Ole Miss is arguably probably the one game you look at and say, yeah, that's probably a loss. You know, Auburn's going to A&M this weekend. That's a toss-up, but it's at home. And so you think, yeah, they should probably be okay. But Auburn's playing pretty well. So A&M's got to go to Ole Miss, then they get Prairie View, and then they got to travel to LSU. That's to be Ed Orgeron's swan song. But I think it's pretty apparent at this point who would pick LSU to beat A&M. I wouldn't. And so you begin to look at the schedule here, and there's 4 games left for A&M. Really good chance they're going to win 3 of the last 4, if not all 4. And you say, you know what? Those guys could go 10-2, probably not be in the playoff, but get a great bowl game somewhere. It's a wild year, for sure. Interesting, we got Kentucky coming in. You know, the line opened up and State is favored by 2. I'm sure that'll fluctuate a little bit here, you know, in the days to come. But, you know, when I look at this Kentucky team, and we're going to break them down and kind of preview them a lot more as we get later into the week, it's one of those things, too, you sometimes you begin to ask yourself, you know, is this my heart or my head, right? Kentucky is 6-1. I will be the first to admit I undervalue these guys. I did. But when you look at the schedule and look at the results, you kind of look at this and you kind of think, you know what? Is this kind of like the we believe year for them? Because they beat UL Monroe 45-10. And if memory serves me correct, that was a little bit of a tussle early. And, of course, you know, the SEC strength and conditioning program kind of takes over. Yeah, no, it was 14-7 in the first quarter. The next thing you know, it's over. But then they beat Missouri 35-28. And Missouri has really disappointed me defensively this year. But as they win that game by 7, they beat UT Chat 28-23, and it took a pick 6 to do it. Then they beat South Carolina 16-10. Just couldn't do anything offensively. And, again, South Carolina just didn't have the athletes to pull it off. They rebound after 2 lackluster weeks and beat Florida 20-13. And then they destroyed LSU 42-21. And I think that's when people begin to realize this LSU thing is officially over. They get beat by Georgia 30-13. No shame there. Then they've had the week off. And so I look at this and I begin to ask myself, who's the real Kentucky? Okay, so UL Monroe, trash defense, they score a bunch of points. Missouri, trash defense, they score a bunch of points. UT Chat, an FCS school, they don't do much offensively. South Carolina, not a great defensive team. They put up 16 points. And, of course, they beat Florida 2013, but they also had a blocked field goal return. Those points count, but when I look at this offense, I begin to kind of wonder what's really the deal here. Will Levis, 1,326 yards. He's a 119 of 177, 13 touchdowns. Chris Rodriguez, kind of the straw that stirs the drink for them in the running game, has already run for 775 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is one of the best receivers in the SEC, he's not talked about enough. 566 yards on the year. But they're getting it done defensively. It's like you look at this stuff and you say, okay, yeah, I mean, they have not been very consistent offensively, but they have been pretty consistent defensively. And that's where you kind of got to stand up here and look, okay, Georgia's going to score on anybody. When you've got the better players, it's kind of how it happens. But they hold LSU to 21, and that's a pretty dynamic set of playmakers down there, even though that they have struggled here as of late. When they played, things still mattered back on October 9th. You don't think Florida has out-recruited Kentucky? I do. And they hold Florida to 13 points. And that's, that kind of goes back to the whole Mark Stoops, Dan Mullen thing, right? I mean, ever since Mark Stoops has been in the league, he's had to play Dan Mullen. So he should have a pretty good idea of what to do. And so he's kind of figured some things out against Dan. And then you give up 10 to South Carolina and then 23 to UT Chad. Missouri's really the only team not named Georgia that has consistently moved the football against Kentucky. And Missouri, of course, 3-4 in the league and 0-3. 0-3 in the league and 3-4 overall. But they have been pretty prolific offensively. So again, we'll look at that a little bit later in the week, kind of break those things down. I want to talk to you too about one of the best games of the early Jackie Sherrill years that involved Kentucky. And this segment of the show brought to you by our friends at Portico. Brooks Bryan, a longtime friend of the show and a longtime friend of Mississippi State, part of this whole thing about making Starkville a better place to live, and it is a wonderful place to live. But Brooks, part of a great group that has brought an incredible residential development right here to Starkville. I've told you guys, if I was moving to Starkville now, this is where I would move. Very easy to get to. You turn off of 82 on a 12. You take the very first right, which is Pat Station Road, and that takes you right to Portico. It's 1.1 miles from campus. And it's on the best side of campus, the quiet side of campus, right? The residential side of campus. A lot of commerce on the other side of campus. And so you're close to all that stuff, and you're close to that neighborhood market, but you're far enough away to have a little privacy and some peace and quiet. But it's close enough that if you want to go, hey, if you're a runner, you can go out there and run on campus. Very easy to get to. Got that great walking trail, though, at Portico. Maybe you don't want to go to campus. But the way that I look at it is you move to Starkville really for one reason, and that's to be close to Mississippi State events, right? That's what you want. And I know many of you are only here on ball game weekends. Here's a little dirty secret. We don't wear Mississippi State gear every day. Most days, but not every day. Like today, I'm wearing a Shinedown shirt today. But, it's a great place to live. The people here are great. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And I've said before, even if Mississippi State packed up and moved, took the circus elsewhere, I'd still probably stay here. I like it here. People are great. You can get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house there at Portico. I'm going to encourage you to give Brooks a call. A text, whatever you need. Brooks is going to answer all your questions. Portico's the place to be. 601-416-8075. 601-416-8075. And the best thing about it is, too, is, we're now in phase 2. And so you can be a part of the building process. Now, you don't have to go out there and get a hammer and nails or anything like that. But what you can do is go ahead and pick out your lot and pick out the floor plan of your home, and they can build exactly the way you want it. That's a really cool thing. So instead of you having to because how it is, you move in the house, well, I like everything but this. Or if I had to do it over again, I would have done this. Well, you can have some say in that now. And many of you are thinking, you know what, I can't move in the middle of school year anyway. This is a perfect situation for you. Give Brooks Bryan a call today. Again, that phone number is 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. And if you're driving today and say, you know what, I'm not going to remember the number, just text me or just DM me. I'll send it to you. 601-416-8075. Make Portico your next move. Okay, one of the most incredible football games that we have ever had happened in 1992 against the University of Kentucky. It was an insane football game. Now, earlier in the year, Mississippi State expected to be really good that year. A lot of people said high expectations for Mississippi State. We had Sleepy Robinson back with preseason number 21. And then we go to Texas and we win. And during that ball game, Sleepy gets banged up a little bit. We bring in Greg Plump. We win the ball game 28-10. Well, the next week, we lose to LSU. And we beat Memphis. And we go beat Florida. And in the Florida game, we lose Sleepy for the year. We start Todd Jordan against Auburn. We win 14-7 at our place. But it took a punt return in the fourth quarter. I believe Tony James. That made the difference in the ball game. We lose at South Carolina and really kind of struggled offensively. And so Greg Plump eventually kind of became the guy. We blast Arkansas State 56-6. And then we go on the road to Kentucky. And this Kentucky team was pretty wild. Okay, so they weren't a great defensive team. But offensively, they were pretty impressive. They were a team kind of similar to us. Had the athletic quarterback, more of a dual threat guy. They just couldn't stop anybody. And so we knew if we could just go over there and get a couple stops, we could win this ball game. And it's pretty crazy how this thing, kind of looking at the Kentucky schedule too, they get off to a pretty good start. They beat Central Michigan. They lose at Florida, but it's a respectable score. It's 35-19, and that's the fun and gun years, right? They beat Indiana, beat South Carolina. So they're 3-1, headed to Oxford. They lose that ball game, 3-2. They beat LSU in Death Valley. So they're 4-2, and to be respected, they get. Make sure I'm looking at the right year. Then they get blistered, of course, by Georgia, and so then we get them. We get them, and it's a pretty crazy deal. I guess that Georgia game was at Lexington, and so we get them at their place. And let me take you through this ball game. I listened to this game on the radio. I was on my way to see my dad. I think it's correct. But kind of bebopping along Highway 49 and trying to catch radio stations. You know how it was back in the day. It was very frustrating, in the days before we had satellite radio. It's like you drive on, hey, let's listen to the ball game. And it's like, oh, well, then you lose the broadcast. And thankfully, Mississippi State had a great radio network, so you didn't have to travel too long. We didn't have Twitter back then. We didn't have cell phones back then. Couldn't call somebody and get an update on the game. You just kind of rode in silence and just kind of worked up and down the radio dial until you found something. And then occasionally you would get that, static-filled Jack Crystal magic. And then the closer you get, you're like, okay, well, now we're on the con now. We're good. That's kind of how it was for me. And so sometimes I would lose the signal and then come back, and then one of the other teams would have the lead. It was a wild, wild ball game. Now, let's go back and look at this. Okay, so here's what happens in the ball game. Greg Plump gets a start. We take the opening drive down and go right down and score. And Kenny Roberts with a great long run. We could run football back then. That's the thing too. We had a dual threat quarterback. We also had a stable of running backs. Carl Williamson with a 4-yard plunge there to make it a 7-0 ball game. Kentucky comes back, kicks a field goal, a 53-yarder. Pelfrey, just absolutely great kicker for them. Makes it 7-3. We kind of bogged down a little bit. They kick another one, makes it 7-6. Eventually, they get another big drive, and we make a touchdown-saving tackle inside the 10, and the defense holds up. And we didn't realize at the time how significant that play was going to be. We force another field goal. Makes it 9-7 Kentucky. Well, then Michael Davis gets loose. Michael Davis featured in Alpha Dogs. Michael Davis gets loose. Big run there. Puts State back in front 14-9. And on the very last play of the half, Pelfrey kicks another field goal. So it's 14-12. So Kentucky has moved the ball well between the 20s. But Pookie and those guys not able to get in the end zone. Bulldog defense standing tall. Daniel Boyd, those guys doing a great job. And so it's 14-12, but we felt kind of unfulfilled because we had some other opportunities offensively and just weren't able to convert. And again, it's one of the great Kentucky defense. But we had the halftime lead, but you just kind of felt like, okay, at any point we're going to break loose here and put some distance between us and the Wildcats, even though we're on the road here. And lo and behold, we strike first in the second half. Michael Davis with another big run and then follows it up with a nice red zone run of his own, made it 21-12. So we're up 9. You're thinking, okay, They got to score twice to catch us. We're good. Well, they come right down. Pookie takes them right back down the field, and they score, makes it 21-19. We end up having a punt. They go back down and score again. Had to kick the field goal to take their first lead of the ball game. Is that right? Yeah, 22-21. And then we kind of felt like, you know what? We're in. No, I guess that's not true. They did have the 9-7 lead early on. So 22-21, and so we're in a fight. You know, it's like we're up 2 scores. Next thing you know, they scored back-to-back drives and take a lead. They end up tacking on, which is crazy. You think about this. They scored 17 points unanswered. Damon Hood had some success running on the interior against us, and then they have the 1-yard plunge there. Makes it 29-21. And then they had a chance to almost put us away. And they go down, and then Pelfrey actually misses a field goal. And that kind of lit a fire under us. Michael Davis got going again. And so we go down the field. Michael scores. No, I'll take that back. Michael didn't score. Michael had the big run to set it up. We run the option play to Tony James, and he scores. And then we go for 2, and we give it to Michael Davis. Michael Davis had the big draw. We ran a draw play, and he got in the secondary, and that's just like, you know, trying to tackle a greased bowling ball. So we go for 2. We make it. It's 29-29 late in this ball game. And you're thinking, okay, this is going to be one of those things where it's going to go down to whoever has the ball last. It nearly did. It nearly did. So Wood gets loose again for another touchdown for Kentucky. They kick the extra point. Now it's 36-29. State gets the ball now, I think like 3 minutes left. Greg Plump leads us down. We convert 2 4th downs on the drive. And I thought Greg was outstanding. You know, it's just like Greg was kind of willing us to a win here. Willie Harris kind of had a slow start, but kind of got going late. And next thing you know, the stars shine brightest, you know, on the biggest stage. Willie with the touchdown catch 5 yards out to bring us within a point. Rather than kick the extra point, we go for 2. And we make it. Kenny Roberts, we pitch it to Kenny on the left side, and he just basically outruns everybody to the end zone, dives into the end zone. Makes it 37-36. You think, okay, what's it? No, it's not. That's not it. That's not it. Kentucky and Pookie put together a great drive. They drive down the field. State stiffens up, and it was crazy, too. We had a chance to pick it, and somehow the ball got through our hands. Kentucky gets it, calls timeout with 2 seconds. They bring Pelfrey out there, one of the better kickers in the country. And so you just think, okay, this is how this is going to end. We've had this incredible ball game, and Pelfrey has been really their best offensive weapon on the day. And what happens? Just as the pass back is back, Bulldogs safety Jeff Artigas comes off the side, lays out full extension, blocks the kick, State recovers. The ball game is over. An absolutely wild night on Halloween, and the Bulldogs get a W. And I actually have some post-game quotes for you guys. How about that? Expecting that, were you? Weren't expecting that. So here we go. So thanks to our good friend Dave Murray. You know, Dave is the guy that archives everything. So about the late field goal. So Greg Plum says, I was just praying. I was praying. The guy had hit one from over 50 yards, and I was pretty sure he was going to make it. But I could see it in the eyes of our guys during the last time out. They were going to make something happen, and Jeff came up with the blocked field goal. Interestingly enough, Watson Brown was offensive coordinator at Mississippi State at the time. He's the one that called the big play there. And you think, that's a thing too we've talked about on the show. You know, late in ball games sometimes it's not really about play calling. It's about getting the ball in the hands of a guy that can make plays for you. And that's basically what happened to us. You know, late in the ball game, it's just like, you know what? We got to find a way to make a play here. And here's what Watson Brown had to say about the 2-point conversion. And State elects to go for it, of course, rather than just kick the extra point. Watson says, we flipped it to him on the corner and told him to outrun him. He barely got in. I looked over there, and it looked like he was running in molasses, but Kenny can run. It was just one of the many little close things in that game, like that run on fourth down. Kenny couldn't have made the first down by more than an inch. And that's one of those fourth downs that we converted. And what's interesting, too, is, late in the ball game, too, that, we didn't have like a special punt block, field goal block play on. And Watson kind of confirmed that. There was nothing called that was spectacular. Just players making plays. Somehow somebody made the right play at the right time. And that's the way you win ball games. Every week somebody's got to make a play to win a game. Tonight we all just happened to make just barely enough to win, and the players did it all. Pretty impressive win for Mississippi State. And it's one of those things, too. It's pretty crazy how life works. Like Jeff Artigas, the guy that big play in the ball game. So he was a former place kicker that walked on, ended up earning a scholarship, and then makes a play in many respects to kind of save our season. Jackie Sherrill said in the postgame, before the game, I said someone in this room would win the game somehow. Whether it's in the offense, defense, or the kicking game, somebody in this room would win the game. And little did we know, it'd be Artigas. Interestingly enough, he still showed the scar, the mark of the football on his arm. And he pointed to it during postgame and said, hey, it hit me right here. It felt great. What made it easier for me was our inside linebackers. They were getting a good rush, and that makes the corner real short for me. They did it all night. I really felt like I should have blocked one or two of the others. With the game on the line, it was everybody gave their all going for the block. I came from the outside. I knew I just had to get it. So there you go. There's Mississippi State winning a huge ball game at the time at the University of Kentucky. So, again, a great game. It's one of those ones I remember where I was. And it's so interesting that Mississippi State played three quarterbacks that year. That's the thing, too. It's so crazy to think about. And we entered a year thinking Sleepy Robinson's going to be our guy. And then we lose Sleepy to a major injury against the University of Florida. Going back to that great 92 season, too, we had some real high moments in the ball game. I mean, in the season, obviously. It was a bowl season for us, as well it should have been. Jackie came in and kind of taught us we could win again. Of course, we opened the season and we beat Texas, and of course we lose to LSU, Memphis. And so we get down to the Kentucky game. We win 37-36, the middle game of a three-game win streak. We beat Arkansas the next week 10-3 in Starkville. We get Alabama. We lose to them 30-21, number 2 Alabama. And one of those games, I think a lot of people feel like we probably should have won. We lose the Egg Bowl 17-10 and kind of limp into the Peach Bowl. And then North Carolina beats us 21-17. We end up blowing that game. It's one of those things you just kind of felt like, what if Sleepy had been healthy the rest of the year? Yeah, we beat South Carolina. We'd have beat Ole Miss. Those are things you look back in hindsight and you kind of wonder. And sometimes I wonder if we weren't always cursed. My hope is that we have broken that with our national championship season in college baseball. Remind you guys, too, if you hadn't done so, go to dogpilethebook.com and you can pre-order copies of Dogpile. Get them signed and personalized right there. Let me just tell you this. If you want to get a book before Christmas, that's the best way to do it. If you are waiting around for it to hit the market, there's a good chance that we're going to sell out before Christmas. I'm just going to be honest with you. Due to that paper shortage, they're not going to be able to fulfill the original order for us. We ordered X number of books, and they get back with my publisher and say, hey, we're going to have to send you the second part of this order later, Valentine's Day, March, whatever. We're not going to be able to get all this done before Christmas. And so that's the reality of the situation. So to ensure you get one, go to dogpilethebook.com. While you're there, you can get personalized signed copies of Flim Flam, Alpha Dogs, and Stark Villains. We sold a ton of Stark Villains in Tupelo last couple days. Very, very interesting to me that we did that. Book's been out a couple of years, but it's a great book. I learned a lot by doing it. If you're looking for Blooms of Oleander, and many of you still are because you still message me, you can find it at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAndMillion.com, or order it through your local bookstore. So we'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll preview we'll break down Kentucky and kind of preview that game. We'll get Mike Leach here in just a little bit and have some comments about that later on genespage.com. Eager to see what Mike's got to say today after the ball game. And interestingly enough, this is one that I think many people expect Mississippi State to win, even though Kentucky has a better record. We went up there and played an absolutely pitiful game last year. Threw 6 interceptions in the ball game. Could not get anything going offensively. KJ Costello just really kind of fell apart on us. And defensively, we actually played pretty well in the ball game. That's when things that you go back and look at those numbers, and we'll talk about that some on Wednesday. It's you go back and look at it and you think this is absolutely ridiculous. We gave this game away. And you said, well, Steve, it was 24-2. Yeah, you go back and look, we absolutely melted down in that football game. The only time in the Mike Leach era his team did not have an offensive point. Pretty crazy to think about. I suspect we have some this weekend. Be interesting to see how Mark Stoops tries to attack the air raid this year. That's going to do it for today, man. Be back on Wednesday. Love and appreciate all you guys. Hope you have a great week. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
At Kings Island, it's never too early to start thinking about next year's fun. That's why we're offering the lowest price of the year on a 2022 Gold Pass right now. That includes unlimited visits this year, so you can enjoy Tricks and Treats Fall Fest, Haunt, and Winterfest. Then unlimited visits next year to try new foods, hang with the Peanuts gang at Planet Snoopy, scream on our world-class coasters, and splash away at Soak City Water Park. All for as low as $105 plus applicable taxes and fees. Hurry, offer ends October 31st, so get your Gold Pass now at visitkingsisland.com. It's amazing in here.